New Thought Media Network and the Universal Joy Center are proud to bring you The Joy Show. One voice, one story, infinite inspiration. Join your host Barbara Jean every Friday at 3 p.m. Eastern Time or 1 p.m. Mountain Time. Tune in live or watch anytime on youtube.com/@UJOYC. The Joy Show with Barbara Jean. The perfect way to get inspired on Friday afternoons. Only on New Thought Media Network. And please like, share, and subscribe. And now, let's join Barbara Jean on The Joy Show.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to The Joy Show. Just one you. Yes, one voice, one story, infinite inspiration. And I'm so grateful you're here with us today on this beautiful, sunny, fabulous day. Well, today we're talking about something deeply human, deeply spiritual, and honestly, sometimes deeply uncomfortable. But let's begin with our land acknowledgement. I am honored to be meeting on this land that many First Nations, Inuit, and Métis people from across Turtle Island call home. We acknowledge and thank the original caretakers and knowledge keepers of this territory. We also give thanks to all other Indigenous peoples, recorded and unrecorded, who have shared responsibility for this land. Recognizing our ultimate oneness and acknowledging our reality, past and present, we commit to moving forward in a spirit of mutual cooperation. We are one. Miigwech. Well, our topic today is the courage to feel. Yes. I remember growing up and having, maybe being sad about something and being told, here, I'll give you something to cry about, or being angry and being told, like, that's not proper, stop it and quit. All of these things, like if you're too joyful, that's too much. If you're too sad, that's too much. It was just all too much. So our topic today is about being in that place of willingness to feel, not to fix, not to numb, not to bypass, and not positive think our way around life, but to actually feel. See, somewhere along the way, we learned that emotions were dangerous. Too much sadness, pull yourself together. Too much anger, calm down. Too much grief, move on. Too much joy, don't get too excited. So we got all these messages, and what are we supposed to do with them, right? We learned to suppress everything. And so we became experts at managing appearances while quietly abandoning our inner lives. But healing begins the moment we stop running from ourselves. Yeah. So there's a difference between drowning in emotion and allowing emotion to move through us. See, feelings are visitors, they are messengers, and they are energy in motion. And what we resist tends to stay. What we allow can finally move. And I remember years ago listening to a recording, it was a long time ago, it was on cassette by Carolyn Mace called Spiritual Madness. And it was about, dropping into that place of, the chaotic feelings that are there and being with them. And what was fascinating to me is allowing myself to be with the pain I was feeling, allowed it to move quickly, like really quickly. So I sat with it. I had my, probably 24 hours of, pain and discomfort. And when I came through it, I felt amazing. It was like somebody had taken a 50-pound backpack off of my shoulders and set it down, and I could move freely again. So allowing ourselves to move through it is really, really powerful and really important. I once heard someone say that emotions are like children. They don't want to drive the car, but they do want to be acknowledged. Yeah, and I kind of love that, because ignored emotions don't disappear. They simply get louder. And sometimes they show up as anxiety, sometimes exhaustion, sometimes irritability, numbness. And sometimes we say, I'm fine. I love that one. I've heard that one so much. And I always immediately think feelings inside, not expressed. Yeah. So we've got this stuff going on, and meanwhile, our nervous system is setting off fireworks in the background, going, hello, pay attention to me. And honestly, Canadians deserve an award for emotional camouflage. How are you? Oh, good. Oh, fine. All is well. While carrying existential collapse and 3 frozen lasagnas. It's like life is hard and difficult, and yet there's something about being Canadian that says, be nice. And I'm not sure what nice is supposed to mean, but I know it's not very effective to live that way. And I'm sure there's some people in other countries who do something similar, but Canadians are kind of known to be nice. Yeah, don't let it fool you. So what I want to talk about today is that feeling is not a weakness. It's not a weakness to feel. So many people think spirituality means rising above emotion, but real spirituality allows us to move through emotion with awareness and compassion. Even nature feels. Storms move through, waves rise and fall, seasons change. Nothing in creation stays frozen. Yet humans often try to become emotional statues. The truth is, unfelt pain does not disappear. It waits. And eventually the body says, if you won't listen emotionally, I'll speak physically. Yeah. So courage is not the absence of emotion. Courage is staying present while emotion moves through us. So that's what I kind of learned in that Carolyn Myss tape series, was that if you will sit in the struggle, you move through it quite effortlessly, quite easily, and it passes. Of course, it returns at some point for us to check the next level of layers, but ultimately it does move. And so it's really important that we take the time to feel. And imagine that life is happening in ways that are unexpected, which we know is true. And if we can just surrender into that not knowing, that inability to control outcome, if we can pause for a moment with that, we actually allow ourselves to be with what is. And in being with what is, we can begin to move it, right? We move it out. So, there's some questions that you might want to consider. And I'm just going to share a couple of these and just think about them. What emotion have I been avoiding? Ask yourself that question. What emotion have I been avoiding? What feelings keep asking for my attention? What feelings keep asking for my attention? Write those down and pay a little bit of attention to that. What's trying to get me? Another one is, what if my feelings are not problems to solve, but invitations to understand myself more deeply? Wow. And what would happen if I stopped judging my emotional experience? Yeah. What would happen if I stopped judging my emotional experience? I remember years ago, I was at work doing something and something came up and I started to cry. And immediately I felt shame. Crying was not okay. And it was important that I allow myself to get past that eventually, and I'm working on it. I'm working on it. I'm much better now. If I burst into tears, I'm not as self-destructive in the process, shall we say. But I still feel some vulnerability, like last week when I was doing And Now the Good News, and I was getting emotional over some of the stories. That was very vulnerable for me and didn't feel all that comfortable. And I'm sure most of you can relate to that. But it's important to just allow those emotions to be there. And to recognize there are no bad emotions. There are no bad ones, including anger. Anger is a really powerful energy, and it can move things in ways we would never have expected. Powerful, yes, as long as we're not dumping it onto someone, it can be a really strong motivator and can move us in a way that maybe nothing else can. So many of us were taught to be strong, and what we called strength was actually suppression. Yeah. So essentially, especially in spiritual communities, yeah, that was a big thing for a while. People smiling through heartbreak. I'm okay, I'm fine. Quoting affirmations while quietly unraveling inside. And yes, affirmations are beautiful, but they're not meant to replace honesty. Yeah, we got to be honest first with ourselves. If we can't be honest with ourselves, then what? So it's really important that we pay attention to what we're feeling. So you cannot heal what you refuse to acknowledge. A cracked foundation covered with beautiful wallpaper is still a cracked foundation. So we want to make sure that as we're going through something, that we honor it by being with it. Not trying to push it away or wish it away or whitewash it with some platitudes, but rather to sit in it and allow it to inform us of what it is that we truly, truly need. So some of us cope emotionally through snacks. So let's just tell the truth. Am I processing grief, or do I just need nachos? Now, sometimes it's both. Spirit does work mysteriously. But oftentimes we're trying to fill a void within us, and it might be alcohol, it might be sex, it might be food, it might be drugs, it might be whatever. So we want to pay attention to that and realize that we do not need to mask our pain, that we need to sit with it, come to understand it, and let it move forward. So as we move along, it's, this journey of sort of discovering something brand new. And in New Thought teachings, we often say what we resist persists. Now, this does not mean emotions are bad. It means resisting our humanity creates suffering. The Buddhists will say, pain is inevitable. Suffering, however, is optional. Yes. It means, resisting our humanity creates that suffering. So if instead of resisting it, if we allow ourselves to be with it, we can begin to move it and shift it actually quite easily, which is quite remarkable. So feeling sadness does not make you negative. Feeling fear does not make you spiritually immature. And feeling anger does not make you unloving. All of these things simply make you human. See, we are spiritual beings having a human experience. So the sacred work is learning how to feel without being consumed, to witness the emotion without building a permanent home inside it. See, that's where the suffering comes in, when we build that permanent home. So a woman once shared that after years of trying to stay positive through every hardship, she finally sat in her car one afternoon and allowed herself to cry. Not elegant crying, not movie crying, real crying. Mascara surrender, full windshield ministry. And afterwards she said, I finally feel honest. The moment began the beginning of her healing. Not because sadness healed her, but because truth did. She allowed herself to sit with what she was feeling. She allowed those feelings to move. She allowed tears to flow. She didn't worry about, daubing her cheeks and making sure that she looked perfect doing it. She just let it go, this complete surrender. And that is incredibly powerful, because in the minute that you get really honest, that's when change happens, and it happens rapidly, to say the least. So the spiritual insight is that the heart is not weakened by feeling. The heart is strengthened by honesty. And perhaps one of the bravest things we can say is, I'm hurting, I'm scared, I miss them, I don't know what comes next, I need help, I need rest, I need compassion. There is enormous spiritual maturity in truthfulness. We must become truthful first to ourselves. So I want to invite you to just join with me for a second. And if you feel comfortable, just place a hand on your heart. And just say slowly after me, whatever I feel, I can meet it with compassion. I do not need to fear my own humanity. I am safe to feel. I am safe to heal. Feels good, doesn't it? Just that moment of telling ourselves it's okay. And sometimes we have to start with a willingness. I'm willing to feel whatever's important for my journey. I'm willing to feel my way forward. I'm willing to look at life and be courageous, even in the midst of something that feels a bit frightening. So courage is not about becoming fearless. Courage is simply staying open. Open to healing, open to truth, open to tenderness, open to being beautifully, imperfectly human. So many of us are trying to be perfect. What is that? What is perfect? You know what I've noticed in my own perfectionism and some that I've seen in others is that a perfectionist is pretty fascinating, because the minute you get close to meeting that bar that you've set for yourself, here's where perfection lives, we raise it just a little. Just a little. And we're constantly striving for it. We're constantly looking for it. We're trying to make it happen. But what if everything that's going on, the messiness of it, the chaos of it, all of it is actually perfect? All of it is leading us in a way that allows us to transform that aching heart and to open up to a bigger possibility for who and what we actually are. So maybe today the invitation is this: stop fighting your feelings long enough to listen to what they're trying to teach you. There's a thought. Stop fighting your feelings long enough to listen to what they're trying to teach you. Because what is felt with compassion can finally begin to heal. So this journey that we're on is pretty exquisite when you think about it. The ideas that we present in New Thought are really about the mind building the body, and the mind is the creator of our reality. And so if I change my thinking, I, in fact, change my experience in the world around me. In fact, the world around me will begin to shift as well. And that happens because our word has power. And it's not just the words we speak, but what we're thinking inside of ourselves, the criticism, the judgment, the disappointments, whatever we've got going on, all of those words that we're using, oh, this is so hard, or that's so difficult, or what a challenge this is, or oh, everything is terrible right now. We talk to ourselves all the time in these negativities, and we wonder why our life looks like a bit of a mess. It's messy because we are avoiding what's really going on. We're avoiding the insecurity we might feel or the doubts that we have. We're afraid to speak of them because we might be judged or criticized for it. And probably that judgment and criticism isn't even coming from outside. It may very well be coming from myself. So we want to pay attention. In order to feel, to begin to have the courage to feel, we have to be willing to look at our lives, what they were and what they weren't. You know, where were my needs met and where were they not met? What brought me pain or discomfort? What brought me joy and, you know, feeling wonderful and loved? Like, what were those things? And as we begin to make a list of what these things are, we start to see that we are creators in our life experience. And we can co-create with the universe by changing our thinking on a regular basis. So when I think thoughts of self-criticism, I want to interrupt myself. But whoa, just wait a minute. What if? What if that's not true? And where did it come from? Where did that idea come from? And what I've discovered for myself is that oftentimes the pain or anguish that I'm feeling, when I really sit with, oh, what do I really need right now? Or when have I felt this way before? I start to remember things said by family members or teachers or neighbors or whoever, somebody who's really trying to help, but making me feel even angrier. We want to listen here. The world provides us with lots of information. But one of the things we need to remember is that the world has been created. Okay, everything there has been done. And everything we see, touch, and feel is now in its point of deterioration, because that's what happens, right? Things deteriorate over time and new things come in. And so the deterioration is, you know, maybe feeding the soil and feeding the plants and trees and whatever, and then something new comes along, and that new thing is uplifted as a result of our willingness to be seen, to be heard, to be felt, and to fully live. You see, we came into this life not to put in time to retirement. We came into this life to live. Yeah, that's it. That's the only requirement. And each one of us, when we came in, was given a little something that is unique to us. And that unique something is ours to give to the world. Beginning first in our families, and then moving out to the broader community. Now, sometimes I hear people say, but I don't know what my purpose is. And I gotta say, yeah, you do. You may not be consciously aware of it at the moment. However, you do know. And we lie to ourselves. We say, I don't know, to a lot of things. And what we should be saying instead is, I'm willing to see that. I'm willing to know. And it's not my neighbor who's going to tell me, or my best friend, or even my boss or my teacher. The person that can really reveal that is me. I'm the only one who can. So there's this moment where we simply just take a breath and pause and go, okay, here I am. Now what? And it is in that place of now what, that place of questioning, where we can sit comfortably and listen to what is ours to do and to be. Life is a journey, and it doesn't have a destination. It's one of the hardest things for us to really accept. What, no destination? Come on, that's not right. But it's true. I mean, think about it. What's at the end of life? Death. Well, that's not a destination I'm running toward. I know I'm headed there because we all are, but I'm not running to it. In the meantime, I'm choosing to live. And that means connecting with friends and doing this show and doing the good news tonight at 7 and 7 Eastern Time, 5 o'clock Mountain, and doing the things that really make me feel alive and present. The journey of allowing things to move and to function in ways that I don't control, but somehow always work out perfectly. Shockingly perfectly. So I look at all this and I go, wow, now what? Not in a negative connotation, but in that excited place of possibility. Now what? You know, this has happened. Everything kind of blew up and it's looking all messy, so there must be something great on the horizon. And we change our thinking to accommodate the shift. And as a result of that, we move into a brand new way of being in our world. And that's incredibly exciting. So the journey that we're on is not about getting it right. It's not about being perfect. It's not about, getting our doctorate or, being the best at something. Our life here is simply to live it. And that means feeling all of it, the ups and the downs and the pain and the joy and the sorrow and the grief and the whatever. We're here to experience living. And as we experience living, we start to learn new things about ourselves and our life and our journey. And that's incredibly exciting. So I invite you to really sit and think about your journey, think about where you're headed, what it is you desire, and what would really give you that new lease on life, that opportunity to go, oh yeah, I am so ready to really stand up and celebrate who you are and where you are in the world. We build a permanent home here by allowing ourselves to be free to express, free to allow, free to laugh, to love, to play. Freedom. Freedom is a very powerful thing. Well, we're going to go to a short little commercial break, and then we will be right back with more of The Joy Show. And in the meantime, stick around because there is more great information to come as we talk about the courage to feel.
Please help us say thank you to all of our organizational sponsors, including the Hefferland Foundation, Affiliated New Thought Network, International New Thought Alliance, Science of Mind Archives and Library Foundation, Center for Spiritual Living Denver, Center for Spiritual Living Midtown, New Thought Philadelphia, Center for Spiritual Living United Life, Sunshine Cathedral, Planned Happiness Institute, Summit Center for Spiritual Living, One Heart Retreats, Universal Joy Center, Unity Kitchener, Unity Spiritual Center Ottawa, Home Center for Spiritual Living, Satya Center, Begin Within Ministries, Center for Spiritual Living North Jersey, Unity of Savannah, and the Center for Spiritual Living Seattle, as well as all of our individual donors. On behalf of New Thought Media Network, thank you, and please like, share, and subscribe. New Thought Media Network. Come be you.
Welcome back. I've been leading a course on Thursday evenings based on Louise Hay's book, You Can Heal Your Life. And the course has been very, very powerful, very creative, and very welcoming to the people who've been participating. And I just wanted to share a couple things from, she has this little book out now. It's hard to see the title, How to Love Yourself. And it's a little workbook, and it's got some really good stuff in here. And she talks about the perfection that we were when we were born, and then how we kind of lose that our training and facilitation and things that go on suggest to us that we should be a little bit different. So taking a look at the beliefs that we have helps us all to also come to understand our feelings, and whether or not we're feeling in a way that is positive and productive, or if we're feeling in a way that is actually destructive to us. And that generally happens when we refuse to feel. We decide that, feeling is not very comfortable, so we'd rather not do it. I just wanted to share something quickly from here. So one of her affirmations is, positive changes in my thinking create positive changes in my life. And she goes on to say that love is the biggest eraser. So when we are thinking about life, and we're thinking about this journey that we're on, and all the things, I spilled my water, all the things that come with it, it's really important for us to remember that we are not alone. Every one of us has feelings. Every one of us is living kind of on the edge a little bit. You look around the world today, and there's a lot of anxiety and depression and multiple wars and all kinds of stuff going on. And it's going on because, well, frankly, because we hate ourselves. I believe that. We hate ourselves. And because we hate ourselves so much, we will project onto others rather than allow ourselves to feel the pain that is within us. I know. Sorry, I got a little tickle in my throat. So what I love about Louise Hay's work is that she is talking about how to love yourself, how to really love yourself, and practices that you can do. And part of that is having the courage to feel what's going on for you, not to dismiss it or push it aside, but rather to go, wow, here's what I'm feeling today. What's this about? And just to be with it. In asking it, we know what it wants sometimes. It wants more food, or it wants more booze, it wants more drugs, it wants more sex, it wants more something to try and fill that gap. But we know none of those things work. So we sit there and we go, well, then what? What do I actually need? And one of the questions I like to ask myself is not what I want right now, but what do I need right now? Need is a very different question. See, we only have a few basic needs: food, shelter, love. And I think the answer often to that question is love. What I need is love. And what is that? I'm not talking about the emotional relationship type love. I'm talking about the self-care, the willingness to sit in my own self and find something to appreciate, something to be grateful for and proud of, to be willing to love me regardless of what's going on around me. So the journey is not about making it all go away. It's about being with what is. And the courage to feel, and believe me, it does take courage. That courage to feel, to be willing to be vulnerable. And we watch as people do go through this journey. We know lots of people who will all of a sudden become very real and vulnerable as a speaker or as an author, and people are buying it up and eating it up. Why? Because we recognize ourselves in the story. And we also know that if they could do it, maybe we could too. If somehow one person has managed to heal themselves through a certain practice, it's possible for someone else to do the very same. That's the journey. The journey is about finding space for ourselves, finding the courage to be seen, to be heard, to be recognized, to be acknowledged, being willing to stand up and really allow whatever moment there is to be fully experienced. We've kind of numbed ourselves out a bit because we don't want to feel. So we lay in front of a TV eating bonbons or whatever. You know, we sit on the patio and drink a bottle of wine to, you know, feel better or something. And we do these things because unconsciously or subconsciously, there's a part of us that's saying, help me. But we're ignoring it. And because we're ignoring it, well, the volume's going to go up a little. That's what I've discovered about this universe, is that when I ignore it, it gets louder. And then I think at some point in time, the cosmic sledgehammer comes out and whop on the side of the head. And it's like, oh, okay, what do I need to do? And ultimately what we need to do is feel. Just feel. It's the simplest thing ever, one of the hardest things to do, because we don't want to feel uncomfortable feelings. We want to feel happy and positive and uplifted, and when uncomfortable feelings come, it's like, hey, go away. But instead, if we can sit with it and ask it, what do you need? You know, let's say you have a pain in your shoulder. Whew. Just bring your awareness there. What do I need? And maybe you've got a sore throat. Just gently, lovingly going, what do you need? And then we listen for what comes, because we are going to receive some kind of information. We're going to receive something that allows us to look a little deeper, you know, explore a little further along the pathway, to notice where we are, you know, kind of consciously pushing aside our emotions and exploring why we're doing that, and then opening up to the idea of actually having the emotions and feeling them completely. And as we feel those emotions, to truly celebrate, well, like Wayne said in the chat, divine right action blesses me always. So when we listen to the universe and we begin to respond with it, we start to see a change in pretty much every area of our lives. We'll notice our relationships become a little deeper. Our work becomes a little more joyous. The energy that we put toward our children or family becomes more creative and solid and comforting. And the energy we have for ourselves becomes less judgmental and critical and far more accepting, kind, and compassionate. So this is a journey that we're on, and each one of us lives it differently. Each one of us does something in a way that, you know, is our way of doing it. And it's up to us to pay attention. So we're being called to be aware, to be more aware of who we actually are and what's actually going on for us. We've been asleep for a while. Yeah, we've been asleep. We're kind of going through the motions of living. But if you really reflect on your past week, were you living or were you putting in time? All these questions, right? Are we putting in time? Because many of us are. Have you ever thought, you know, oh, I can't wait to retire. Oh, I can't wait to buy a house. I can't wait to have kids. Oh, I can't wait to get married. I can't wait to get divorced. I can't wait for graduation. I can't ever say any of those things. What if instead of that, we allowed ourselves to experience what was going on? Wow, I'm in the middle of this pain and it doesn't feel very good, but let me sit with it and let me ask my body the question, what do I need right now? Because needing and wanting are very different things. We have lots of wants, and sometimes we have to let those go a little bit so that we can actually fulfill what it is that our heart desires for our life experience. So it's really important to just kind of take it a day at a time and to lovingly allow ourselves to process through whatever is going on. And that's the journey. One day at a time, one moment at a time, loving who we are moment by moment and allowing us to be in this idea called life. The courage to feel, to be seen, to allow. So there's no easy fix for this. There's no, one and done thing that makes it super easy. But rather there is an opportunity for all of us to be who we are. Take down the mask for a minute. Take down the mask. And then ask yourself, so now what? Who am I? Who am I? It can sometimes be a tough question to answer. But when we answer it honestly, what we soon discover is I'm not this. This is my, outfit for this life experience, to not have a better word to say at the moment. And allowing ourselves to recognize that the body is not who we are. That there is an aspect of us that's way beyond this body. And the idea of kind of celebrating that idea that I am enough just as I am, that the things that I bring are gifts and blessings, and that I feel really good about my life, that's magnificent. That's when we really excel for a moment. That's when life shows up in ways that are, fantastic. The ability to feel. So I don't know if any of you really feel like you know yourself well. Or are you sometimes scared to put yourself out there for fear of what might happen? And remember, no answer is right or wrong, and you can put it in the chat if you like. But the reality is that all of us have feelings, all of us have, experiences that we've had, or pain or something, and we've all experienced some of that somewhere along the way. So if we can be with each other, we create healing, we create community, which is incredibly powerful. Incredibly powerful. So let's start today, this new day, with a new way of being in the world. So maybe we get up in the morning and we, do our morning spiritual mind treatment practice and our meditation. And then we go, all right, my intention for today is to have the best day of my life. I haven't defined it. I haven't said it has to be at the zoo, or it has to be at the CNE, or it has to be somewhere. It doesn't have to be anywhere. I am willing in this moment to allow you to interview me. And I will be present as I can be. And when we do that, there's a freedom that kind of happens where, a person feels that they have the ability to speak and talk to their life journey, because there's an openness here. There's a place here where it's not going to be ridiculed and laughed at, but it's going to be supported in some way. That's what we're striving for. The idea of courage is such a big one, because it sort of pushes us in ways that we may or may not be comfortable with. Courage requires us to face our fears. Courage requires us to stand in this thing that we might be afraid of or concerned about or whatever. We stand up in the midst of that and we begin to move forward. And we create something really lovely as a result, because the energy is so powerful. And it moves us in ways that is very surprising sometimes. But it does move us. And I remember so many times working with people, and the results would come back to me. They'd come to me and say, oh, this happened or that happened. And it was always so joyful. So as we move along, we're here to bring more joy, more life, more willingness into our experience. And as we become more and more willing, the universe unfolds so much more. And there's more for us to give, to do, to be, and to have. So we can never work ourselves outside of work. But there's always going to be something for us to do. So even though we might be participating in some other events or things, there's still a part of us that is tied to this. And that is amazing. Absolutely amazing. And I love it so much. The minute I hear that, I'm like, yes, I'm in, take me. So I want to share with you a tool that I use that has been very, very helpful in shifting my consciousness from a place of victim into a place of victor. And the way that I've done that in the past, I will look at what's happening in my life, and I will acknowledge that it is happening. I will also acknowledge that it has no power over me. Take a breath. Whatever's going on, it has no power. When we acknowledge that, we then open the door to what then? I am powerful. I am powerful. And it's like, whoa, okay. If I'm powerful, then what? How do I respond? How do I work? What do I do? How do I do it? And it really does make this huge difference overall to creating harmony within species. And I was watching a show the other night on some network. I have no idea which one. I was in Montreal at the time. And it was about animals that had adopted other animals. And, so it might be a calf that adopts a sparrow, or a dove that, expresses light and love over, something we see or do. And so there's this energy that we're creating that can be quite positive and uplifting. So we want to balance things out where we allow for that, those uplifting moments. We allow ourselves to, do the positive thinking, the affirmations, but not at the expense of what we feel. We must feel the feelings. So we begin there. What am I feeling right now? And we sit with that. When we feel angry, we don't project it out onto someone. We sit with it. Wow, I'm feeling really angry. Whew, what is that about? And I might go to my room and just be by myself for a little bit to go, wow, what is that? Because it's in my consciousness, because I saw it and recognized it, I believe it's mine to resolve. That's just how I've felt since I got into this teaching. It's up to me to respond. So this idea of response is very different from, I have to do this or I have to do that. It's more about I choose. I choose to do this, I choose to do that. I choose to be the person that I really want to be in the world. And by allowing myself to just celebrate little wins, very quickly I notice how incredibly powerful they were. So, if you have any questions or anything like that, please feel free to put them in the chat. Or you can always send an email to revbarbara@rogers.com. And just to clarify anything that you were unsure of or didn't know how it fit. Ultimately, we're on a journey without a destination. That's the short of it. And it's a powerful thing to remember. Very powerful thing to remember. So, as we get ready to close, I just want to, just take a moment and want you to just close your eyes for a minute. Just take a breath. And just ask yourself gently, who am I becoming right now? Who am I becoming right now? Remember, it's not who I was. It's not who others expect me to be. But who is emerging right now? Think about that for a moment. Who is emerging right now? What am I being invited to release? What am I being invited to release? And what wants to grow in its place? What wants to grow in its place? So just notice. No pressure to, answer any of this right now, but they're questions to ponder. And in doing that, you kind of open yourself up to some answers that could be quite powerful for you. So if you've, if you've been watching the Joy Show for a while, you know that sometimes I I just speak about some subject, and other times I have guests on that I interview. And if you'd like to be interviewed on this show, please send me an email at info. Oh, no, that's not it. Let me try that again. Email me at revbarbara@rogers.com and just put The Joy Show as the title. And then just tell me briefly a little bit about yourself. What I try to do with my guests is share their story, what they're doing right now, how they're feeling about life, what changes have occurred, what has inspired them, what has brought them to where they are now. And so, or if you know someone who is, a real interesting individual in their own right, send me an email. Send me their email or their phone number, and I'll touch base with them and see if they might be interested in being a guest. And I'm excited because next week's show I have Zoe DeMiro on, and he's just released his book, and the name just jumped out of my head for a moment. So let me find it. Quick. It is called From Vision to Reality, Transforming Your Life Experience. Try that again. Transforming Your Life Experience by Achieving Smart Goals and Beyond. And I started reading it. Really good book. I was able to get it on Kindle. In the US, it's free. In Canada, it's $10.99. So just go on to Amazon and you can get a copy and read a little bit before next week's show. And then if you have any questions, you could always put those in the chat and we could address them through the show. So be sure to come back next week when we interview Zoe, and allow yourself to experience the weekend. It's a long weekend here in Canada. I'm not sure if it is in the US, but it's a long weekend here, and it's a time to, get out and maybe do some gardening, enjoy the sunshine, ride your bike, or take your scooter out for a run, or, get on that motorcycle and blow the dust out of it and get it, from one place to the next and enjoy the journey. There is so much to love about life. There's so much to love about this journey that we're on, and there's so much to love about us. And so it's time to really acknowledge that and sit with that and begin to cultivate it so that you're showing up as the best example of you, moment by moment. Well, I want to thank you for watching. You've been watching The Joy Show here on the New Thought Media Network. Please like, share, and subscribe. We want to grow our audience, so please do that. And keep in mind that I will be hosting the And Now the Good News at 7 p.m. Eastern Time, which is 5 p.m. Mountain Time. So be sure to log in and check that show out. And just know that this network is here 24/7. Radio station, great podcasts, like great shows lined up. So come on and check it out. There is information every day of the week. It's positive, it's productive, it's beautiful. And we just want you to be a part of it. So please join us for all of the other things that we do. Find the shows that you love and tune in each week and see what inspiration you get from it. And just know that it will make a difference in your life overall. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. I'm Barbara Jean. This is The Joy Show on the New Thought Media Network. And be sure to like, share, and subscribe. And, if you feel like it, you can send a donation to newthoughtmedia.org, ntmedia.org, and send a donation. This is a charitable organization. We are running all this programming, and in order to keep it running and keep it with you, we need those donations to keep things moving smoothly. So I thank you for your time. I thank you for being here, and I look forward to seeing you next week on The Joy Show.